Hey guys, I'm sorry I'm not there in person to do this. I just am still not feeling well at all. Okay, so what I need you guys to do is get out your notes packet and get to here. And we're gonna go ahead and start the next little bit of notes via video. So, we actually did this task as part of our Desmos that we did last time. So just remember that if you're trying to do x plus 5 times x plus 2, what that would look like is this part's x, and then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But on this side, you had to have the x plus 1, 2. So this is the area that you're actually working with that we're talking about here. So remember that turns into x plus 5 times x plus 2, or it would then be x squared plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 x's plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, remember we did this with our task with Desmos, okay? So I want you guys to go ahead and try out numbers 2 through 5. So the sub is going to pause the video for 3 minutes, and I want you guys in that 3 minutes to try to work through these and see what you come up with. Okay. Hopefully you guys were able to kind of figure out what I was trying to get at there. So if it was extended 3 inches, that's like saying x plus 3. If it was extended 4 inches, that would be x plus 4, etc. Okay, so now we're going to go into this part. So this says that customers start ordering custom-made block designs by requesting how much additional area they want beyond the original area. And once an order is taken for a certain type of block, customer service needs to have specific instructions on how to make the new design for the manufacturing team. And the instructions need to explain how to extend the design of a square to create the new line of rectangular blocks now. The customer service department has placed the following orders on your desk. For each, describe how to make the new blocks by extending the sides of a square block with an initial side length of x. Okay, so what this is the overall area. What you need to do with this is figure out what that means as far as this, and as far as, actually, let's just go with that, okay? So that's what I'm really looking for on this, for 6 through 9. So I'm going to have the sub pause the video here for another 2 minutes. I want you to get as much of this done as you possibly can. All right, so hopefully you guys were able to figure out some of these too and see what you're seeing here. So this would be x plus 5 and 3. This one should be x plus 4 and x plus 6. This one should be x plus 9 and x plus 2. And this one should be x plus 5 and x plus 1. Okay, I'm hoping you guys are seeing a pattern here. So again, I'm hoping you guys are seeing a pattern here. Yeah? Hang on just a minute, Lolo. Okay, so some of the orders are written in an even more simplified algebraic code. Okay. So what is different? I want you guys to look and notice. I want you to notice what's different between these and these. What's the difference? Okay, hopefully you guys see These are split out a little bit. This one would ultimately become x squared plus 8x plus 15. How did I get that? Where does this come from? 5 and 3 make 8. 5 and 3 make 8. But 5 times 3 make... Okay, so when we do this, I want you guys to look through and see if you can figure out what's happening. What am I asking you to do here? I'm going to have the sub pause the video. I'm going to say for 4 minutes this time. I want you guys to see if you can find a different way to represent these things. Remember your splat thing that we did from Desmos. 4 minutes. Ready, go. Okay, I'm really hoping some of you guys are kind of starting to figure out a pattern here. That's what this question is asking about. Did you figure it out? Okay. I'm going to jump right into the formal notes now. Okay. And I'm going to teach you guys a little bit more of a systematic way to do this process. It's really just a graphic organizer to write down your thinking. But I promise you, if you guys will learn how to do the graphic organizer, it will help you with the coming sections. So let's start by what we already know. Okay, we already know how to do these. Remember, we just need to distribute. So negative 8 times negative 3 makes a positive 24x squared. And a negative 8 times 2 is minus 16x. That's all you need for that one. Just a quick review there. Okay, so this is basically asking you to undo the process that we just did. Okay, all you have to do is find the GCF. Okay, so if you look, the GCF between 7 and 28 is 7. The GCF between x squared and x is x. So they both have an x, a 7 and an x. Now we're just going to take it up a notch. You guys have already done that in the last unit. Again, we're just going to take it up a notch. If you have 7x here, what would you have to multiply to get the ultimate 7x squared? Well, x. You just need another x. And then to get from here to here, what else do we still need? Well, what do you have to multiply by 7 to get to 28? Well, that's 4, so minus 4. And we already have our x. We already have it. So what we're saying is that if we were to distribute this back in, if we were to distribute the GCF back in, we would get 7x squared minus 28x, which is what we started with. That's all we're asking you to do, okay? We're just trying to say if you pulled out that GCF, what would you have to multiply it by to get that original expression? And your answer looks just like this. Okay? All right, another reminder of how we multiply binomials. There is a method that you guys might see on your homework, so I'll show it to you. There is nothing wrong with this method. You can do it every time. I don't usually. I usually just tell you guys to use the arrows, but I do want to make sure you guys see it. All this is asking you to do is do 2y times 2y and put the answer here. So 2y times 2y would be 4y squared. 2y times negative 8 goes here. So that one would be negative 16y. 2y times 8 this way would be 16y here, and 8 times negative 8 would be negative 64. And then all you have to do is recognize that you're going to have like terms here. And say, okay, so 4y squared plus 16y minus 16y minus 64. Well, in this case, 16y minus 16y is just 0. So this one actually just turns into a 4y squared minus 64. But you would just combine whatever these terms are. It's just that in this case, it's 0. Okay, there's your answer. a minute, baby. Just let me finish my video for my students, baby. Okay. So this one, all of a sudden, is really hard because we've thrown negatives in there for you, which is why I want to teach you guys the way I do this, okay? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out, okay, what are my A, B, and C values? So my A value is 1. My B value is -3. And my C value is -54. Now, with perfect squares, you guys figured out that there's always a relationship between C and B. And that is true in perfect squares. The pattern that you learned, that B over 2 squared. Hang on just a minute. Sorry, guys. My kiddo's trying to talk to me. Give me just a second, Lolo. So our A, B, and C values do still have a pattern in these types of problems, but it's not that same pattern. It's a little bit different. So here's how we figure out what those relationships are. We draw ourselves an X, and what goes in this X on top is whatever value A multiplied by C is. So in this case, our A is 1, and our B is our C is -54. So we're going to do 1 times a -54, which is -54. And that's what goes in the top of our little X. So I'm going to do a fresh X over here with just those numbers because I think it'll be more clear that way. But again, this comes out to be a -54 in this case. The bottom of this X is always a B. I remember that because bottom starts with B. And it's just your B value, whatever that is. So in this case, it's going to be a -3. Easy.
Mommy, please like this.
Yes, Logan. So now, here's what we're trying to do. These sides look weird right now. I understand that. So here's what you're going to do. Always. You're always going to take whatever your A value is and multiply it by X. And then you're going to divide by, I'm going to call this factor number 1. Logan, I cannot help you right now. Go ask your dad. Honey, I'm recording a video for my students and they can hear you right now. You need to give me a minute. Okay, so this one should be A times X times over factor number 2. And I know you guys don't know what those factors are yet. I'm going to show you. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this A times C value, which is -54, and I'm going to figure out what all of the different factor combinations for this would be. So the possibilities to multiply to 54 are 1 and 54, 2 and 27, 3 and let's see. Well, I don't know. Let's get a calculator. Pull that up. Just a minute. So 3 and 18. And I'm just going to keep going through and see. Okay, 4 is not a perfect factor here because I get a decimal. So we're going to skip that one. 5 is going to have the same thing happen. And we've got 6 and 9. That's a decimal. That's a decimal. Now, I'm not going to do 9 because I already know that 9 times 6 is going to come out as -54. Okay, so I'm going to skip that one. And I'm done. Once you get on this side, once you get, I guess I should say, once you get on this side, something you already have on this side, you don't need to keep going. You have all of your factors. So these are all my choices. Now remember, one of these in each of these cases would need to be negative to get a -54 out. So you could also have a -1 and 54 or a 1 and a -54. You could also have a -2 and a +27 or a 2 and a -27. A -3 and a +18 or a -3 and a or a positive 3 and a negative 18. A 6 and a negative 9, or a negative 6 and a positive 9. Okay, how we know which factors we're looking for are we're trying to find some that add to be this b value. So if you look, 6 plus negative 9 is negative 3. Those are my two side factors that I want. So I'm going to take my a times x, well, in this case it's 1 times x, over 6 on this side, and my 1 times x over negative 9 on this side. You should always reduce this factor if you can. If this fraction reduces, you need to reduce it. This one doesn't. So what we're doing here is we are going to have a final answer of a factored form or an intercept form of x plus 6 and an x minus 9. Now what happens here is that we take this top and it ends up here. We take this bottom and it ends up here. We take this top, it ends up here. And then we take this bottom and it ends up here. You'll notice their signs go with them. It's a positive 1x, so that's what comes out. It's a positive 6, so that's what comes out. It's a negative 9, so that's what comes out. Now I want you guys to notice that if you were to multiply this back in, x times x is x squared. X times negative 9 is negative 9x. X times 6 is plus 6x. 6 times negative 9 is negative 54. Now, if we were to combine our like terms, we would get x squared minus 3x minus 54, which is what you started with. Okay, so you should always double check yourself at the end here to make sure that you're getting what you started with. But your final answer really should just be these two answers in parentheses. Okay, so you guys have already learned about vertex form. You guys have learned about standard form. Remember, this is standard form. Vertex form is where you have the x minus k squared plus 8. Actually, I think k and h are backwards in there, but that's fine. That's your vertex form. This is your standard form. And what we just learned, it actually has two names, which is confusing. But this is either called factor or intercept form. Factored form or intercept form. Okay, so I know that that was a lot, and I know you guys are probably going to need to practice that a lot before you get really familiar with that, and that's okay. It's really okay, but you guys just need to dig in and try to do it. So remember, first step is to get your a, b, and c. Second step is to put a times c here and b here. Your third step is to find the factors that are a possibility that multiply here. The next step of finding all those factors is then finding the factors that are going to add to be this number. Okay, so your factors should, maybe I should write this down. Factors should multiply to a times c and add to b. Okay, they have to do both of these things to be your correct factors. And then in the sides of these box, you have a times x divided by factor 1, a times x divided by factor 2. It does not matter which side is which, okay? We could have switched this. We could have put negative 9 over here and 6 over here. That's fine. That part does not matter. We reduce these fractions if we can and end by putting them in the parentheses. Okay. So go ahead and get started on your homework. Logan, give me a second. I'm almost done. this is not right on my copy. You guys actually have, I think, 32 problems. And there is one other thing I probably need to go over with for that for you guys. Okay. So, sometimes you have radical signs. So there should always be either a way to simplify the square root or to factor what's inside of it. So I just need you guys to recognize here that squares and square roots are opposites of each other. So this is going to cancel with this. And all you're going to have left is 4xyz. That's it. Sometimes you might see one that's more like 16x squared, y to the third, z to the fourth. And I just need you guys to recognize that the square root, this is the same as the square root of 16 times the square root of x squared times the square root of y to the third times the square root of z to the fourth. So the square root of 16 is 4, square root of x squared is x. Square root of y to the third is interesting because you have a y that comes out, but you also have a y that gets stuck. And then z to the fourth, the square root. Just remember this is z squared times by z squared, which is the same thing as z squared squared. So that one and that one cancel, and you actually have z squared come out. Okay, so you're just looking for those pairs, those perfect matches. And anything that doesn't have a perfect pair gets left in the square root. And then these ones are fascinating because what's going to happen here is this. When you do the little x method on it, a times c is going to be 36. B is negative 12. And it turns out that you're actually going to use the factors negative 6 and negative 6 to multiply to be 36, but add to negative 12. This one's tricky when you have the one positive and the one negative. Okay? It's tricky, I know. So then what we do with it is this comes out to be, so we're going to have 1x over that and 1x over that. And that comes out to be x minus 6 times by x minus 6. Which, of course, is just x minus 6 squared underneath the square root. So all this one is x minus 6. Isn't that silly that that comes out to be x minus 6? Okay, so those might happen too. And that way you also guys get another example of that. I did skip a couple steps. Recognize that I skipped this part. 1 and 36, 2 and 18. Again, though, this could have been negative 1 and negative 36, negative 2 and negative 18, 3 and 12, or negative 3 and negative 12, 6 and 6, or negative 6 and negative 6, and that was that one. Okay, so I didn't show that, but there you go. If you guys have questions, I would say you can either ask Miss Ralph across the hall, if she's available, or you guys can email me or send me a message on Canvas. But you should have everything you need to know to do your homework. So the rest of the time is yours to work on the 6.6 assignment.